Meet the Farmer TV is made possible by the generous support of Planet Earth Diversified, Makia Video Productions, and Melly Productions, with additional support from Flavor Magazine, serving the Piedmont's local food and wine culture. I'm Michael Clark for Meet the Farmer TV, and here we are in the Mayor's office in City Hall in Charlottesville, Virginia. We're going to talk today to the City Manager, Gary O'Connell. We'll talk to Gary about the economic situation of Charlottesville, how they're noticing reductions in tax revenues from reduced sales, and how the city market has broken at $1.1 million this year, growing every year. So while other businesses are shrinking and economic situations seem dire, there's actually one part of our economy, our local farmers and local producers, that's growing every year and continuing to grow. We'll talk about some of the emotional attachments people have to buying local, the social interactions that happen at the public markets, and the extra nurturing and benefit that comes from these interactions of our local community food system. Let's talk to Gary O'Connell now and find out some more as the city manager what's really going on in Charlottesville and the economic situation and local businesses and the Charlottesville city market that's soon to open. We wanted to just talk some about, well, some stuff about the city market, because we're having the vendors meeting coming up this Saturday.
Good.
And we've been doing some work with Stephanie on that, and she's given us some of the information of the market breaking $1 million in sales this year.
Which is pretty cool. That's,
yeah, like 1.1, and it was still the Christmas market.
I think most people would be really amazed with that.
Yeah. And I can't remember how many vendors there are, like over 100?
I'm not sure.
People, there's quite a number in there. And we've been really looking at how in this economic situation, we're seeing that and our focus is the small kitchen table entrepreneurs, the small growers. We interviewed one farm that was going bankrupt, and they started baking pies, just trying to do something for money, and it turned out really well, and they have 4 shops.
Oh, really?
Selling pies now, one daughter in each shop. So we're kind of seeing that as being a more likely solution than a big company coming in and hiring everybody. Or I know we've seen this happen in Greene County. They keep doing the economic development based on, you know, if we build this sewer system, build this water system, we build these roads,
a big hit, and
we'll get, you know, the big store in, and that'll pull us out. And so, and we're seeing a lot of things, Comdial empty, and the Badger fire protection empty, but we're seeing the small individuals, the families, they can't lay off their kids. They've got to keep going, so they find something. So they invent something to do, and the market is kind of an opportunity for people, and seems to be a really big success
story. That's a good story to tell.
Yeah. We also want to get your view of the whole economic situation for Charlottesville, and Chris told us some of that stuff. He was mentioning that 8% of the city budget was the 1% local sales tax. So is the city budget about 80 million? Is that right?
Like 150 million.
150 million. Okay. But he was saying there was about 10 million that came.
Probably local sales tax.
From local sales tax. Yeah.
There's some other business taxes that would be for a local business. But we're like everybody is seeing a decline. I don't know how many percent.
Yeah, Chris was saying about 4%, and it was unusual because you're used to seeing sort of a gradual, flat or a gradual rise.
And we're seeing the same thing with the meals tax, which reflects what's going on with restaurants.
Uh-huh.
You know, a lot of the restaurants buy local, so that's you know, another place that local product is not being sold. So, I mean, people are slowing down, obviously. Some of the grocery stores are having some issues too, I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, people have to buy food, so there are probably lots of different shifts that people are making to try to deal with the economy. And we're pretty lucky here. We don't have any really big industry that's closing down or large numbers of jobs that people are getting laid off. But I think people are just hanging on to their money, being cautious, not sure what's going to happen.
Right. I know we've seen that in a number of the restaurants that they're trying to keep going, but people aren't in. And it's pretty hard when you've got more staff than customers.
What's kind of intriguing is there are a few new restaurants that have opened in the last couple months.
Uh-huh.
And are doing pretty well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a shift of where people are going, and it may be just this weekends too, because that's when I've been out. But
maybe it's just something new, and so everybody's
new and different.
Going to the new.
That's probably part of it. But yeah, it's to get a gauge on the local economy. I think is kind of hard at this point. The biggest part of our budgets come out of local property tax, and everybody knows what's happened with housing, and we're seeing that with the assessments and ultimately the taxes from that. But the rest of the economy, I think the next 6 to 12 months we'll get a better feel for it.
So what do you do as the city manager when you see a reduction of income from the tax base?
Our goal with the budget was to keep the services we've got, not lay any of our employees off, serve the public as well as we can. And the cuts that we make, try to do it in a way that's not too visible to the public. And then probably another big one, we started 3 or 4 years ago making some major investment in energy efficiency in city buildings, city vehicles, to ultimately save money, and we're starting to get some of that payback.
Wow, that's
really significant savings. We did a report for council a couple months ago, and it was close to $500,000 a year. So those things add up.
Yeah.
It's not any one thing that you do, but just a variety of different things. And looking around, we'll just continue to do that. Now, with the way the economy is, I'm sure we're in this for a couple of years at least.
Yeah. Well, now, how do you see things like the Charlottesville City Market playing into that? I mean, the market broke $1 million in sales this year, and every year since its inception, it's been the sales more and more. That's a significant even income stream for the city, because there's not only the 1% sales tax, local tax, but there's a 6% tax on to support the market. So that seems like a really good economic stimulus that it fully supports itself. Or does it? Does that 6% fee pay for everything that the market costs the city?
Yeah, I think that's our hope, and I think the numbers bear that out. I mean, I've never thought of it this way. I mean, what your question sort of raises, I mean, $1 million revenue business is a pretty good sized business. And then I guess you have to look at the number of people that
it's only open
that work
40
into
days
that.
a year.
Yeah, so it's that's a pretty powerful number. I think it says there's a lot of demand from people in our community. The trick has been, how do we physically deal with that?
Right.
And you know that as well as anybody. Being in that lot has got its whole set of issues, from it not being flat, and probably at this point not large enough, but how do you expand it and where do you expand it? What happens to that lot in the long term? And I think there are lots of ideas. None of them are real concrete at this point.
Yeah.
The economy has slowed down. Some development probably from happening next door that might have pushed a decision about the market more quickly. So
yeah, it seemed in the last few years there was always this impending, when this
something
sells
may
or
happen,
something
yeah.
happens, we're going to have to do something.
And part of the whole thinking about that development was when the city we had a group of architects from all over the place do some models and come up with some design ideas, was build in how would you have the city market function be a part of your project, and coming up with and they came up with several different ways. But to recognize its importance, it's something important, I think, and I think a lot of people do, it being downtown, and figuring out a way that we can help grow it. But that's probably something for the future. I suspect for the next couple of years. It's,
so you're
where it is, and we're gonna make the most of it.
Right.
And to Stephanie's credit and the other people that work in the market, trying to find ways to take it off-site at different times. We've tried a variety of things. Some of them have worked really well, others haven't. I suspect we'll keep trying some newer things too.
Right. So the slowdown has kind of given an insurance for a couple of years that the lot's not going to develop.
Pretty likely, I would say.
But it's also created a budget crunch so that there's not likely to be money available for a major development to make like a permanent spot.
So I visited some of those markets. Then you have one like in Roanoke where when they did their downtown renovations, they actually built it into the project. Is where do you put it that's going to be better than what we have right now? And being centrally located, close to parking, to make it convenient. There are not that many spots downtown to really do it. So thinking about it longer term, being part of bigger development may be the best future for it and the best way to grow it.
Now the city owns that lot at 2nd and Water Street?
Yeah, we own the lot on which the city market sits, the building next door. Then there's a tiny parking lot that's privately owned, and then the larger lot next door that
down the hill.
Is down the hill. This the public parking lot is owned by a nonprofit entity that that's in the parking business called CPC.
Okay.
So if anything happened there, it'd have to be a partnership of several different property owners to really have it make sense.
Right. We did have a market that moved to on-site at University of Virginia, outside of Newcomb Hall. And the girl that sort of sponsored doing that was surprised at how many permits and things she had to get to have a market on private property that don't have to happen on the city property where the city market is. So I guess the health department got involved.
I guess, I know, I don't know what's involved, so.
It was very
interesting. It's never as easy as somebody thinks. I
Right.
just put the sign up and say we're going to start selling.
Yeah, it was like this whole transfer, because it wasn't a city property and city organization. It was no longer VDAX, it was now health department, and there were all these changes. So there really seems to be a benefit to the vendors at the market of being on city property and having the city own and
That's
sponsor.
one more positive. I didn't know that, but that makes some sense.
And I guess some of the liability issues and stuff, you know, if it was to go on a private property, and the injury issues and trash collection and all that kind of stuff. So we were really surprised in following that University of Virginia market, how much they had to go through. Even though it's on university property, it's not a local government organization, so it was a whole different
That's
scene.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, to me, the real advantage of where it is now, people know where it is, and it's sort of it's almost a social event. You see this.
Yeah.
I mean, people are there to buy produce and buy different product, but they're there to see their friends too. And I used to go really early, and in terms of trying to get there first for corn or get there first for other things, that's
Right.
the time to go.
Yeah.
That time has slipped over the years, but the number of people that show up a little later in the morning and are just kind of milling around and stopping and talking and having a cup of coffee, I mean, that's a big part of it.
Yeah.
But people, I'm always amazed how many people walk away with bags full
Right.
of product, and they come back and get more.
Right. And it's an interesting social event because, you know, you're there. There are other politicians that are there. We have, you know, there are movie stars that are walking through.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's a really
And
interesting.
music usually.
Yeah. So it does seem like something that would be worth an economic development. Are there any grants, or, you know, there used to be the iced tea money and block grants and that kind of stuff. Do you see any of that coming down with economic stimulus that might come from a new administration?
I don't know, it could. I mean, we haven't seen that yet. I mean, the best hope that I thought was to have a private development occur, that the market would become a piece of that, and the space for it would be part of that, and that would, in essence, what would help finance it. And given that the economy has pretty much stalled anything like that happening, I think that's several years off. I mean, we've looked off-site at a number of different spots. We've done a bunch of studies. You've probably seen some of those studies. We've looked at exchanges of land with some people to try to see if we could get a piece of property at a reasonable price near the downtown. And none of them have worked out. They're either so expensive it doesn't make any sense, they're not large enough, or they don't have enough parking around them.
Right.
And you know, different places do them different ways. I was at what I thought was a pretty successful one. One of my kids went to Penn State and State College, and they pretty much just closed off a side street. And I've been to others where they close off a street, and it's just done in the street. So, I mean, there are a variety of ways that it gets done. And then, like the ones you mentioned, where there's a permanent building.
Right.
They tend to be away from the center of a downtown, kind of on an edge, maybe in more of a, let's say, semi-industrial area to an industrial area. The one in Richmond, I sort of look at that way. Lynchburg's got one that's like down the hill from the main part of their downtown, if you've been to that one. So, I mean, every community.
Yeah, Stanton has some in the Wharf.
Some of them have it at a gas station parking lot on the weekend, you know, it just depends.
Well, since the market has done so well and doesn't seem to be, you know, in danger of being thrown out for development immediately, what do you think would happen if the market does start going longer? And there's been some talk of it going another month or maybe just continuing right on through till Christmas instead of breaking and having a holiday market. So it would pretty much run, I guess, from April to New Year's.
I don't know. I mean, I guess just naturally, I mean, you're in the produce business. I guess it depends on how much product people are able to have at what point in time and how big of a gap you'd have.
Yeah.
Well,
I
mean, anything's possible. I mean, that may be something that's worth considering, but it seems like you've got a natural gap between the fall produce ending and Christmas and how many, you know, between that to get to the holiday period, how much time is in there, and is it really worth somebody being there setting up, so on and so forth.
The push for staying open has actually come from some of the produce growers.
Yeah, it's, but you know, I hadn't thought about this in years. When it was in Jefferson School, I mean, it was an active place, but it was small and the parking was away from it. I mean, just trying to find the right location. And I mean, with all the, you know, there are lots of issues about where it is now, but it works, you know.
Yeah.
And so I guess you don't want to, if it's working, you don't want to change it and then it break apart or the part of it that's not working right.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of places have it, you physically, like, you force people to do it on the mall. Or, you know, I mean, there are a variety of ways to look at it. And I think we've studied it every which way since I've been here.
Right. Yeah, I know we tried one year to have the Christmas market down under the tent in the pavilion, and it was cold, all the cold air settled down there, and you couldn't actually see anybody walking down the mall. You didn't know it was happening.
And it's surprising to me that it's a visibility thing. You know, a lot of people just come downtown and will wander and walk around.
Yeah.
And if a vendor is there, they'll pick up on it. If it's like way down the street,
they don't.
They don't. Yeah. So it's.
And the big thing at 2nd and Water Street is there's just so much activity. I mean, it's really about 10:30 wall to wall people. You can't move through there quickly. If you've got a stroller, you know, you're maneuvering around, and that event draws in other people. You know, just driving by looking for a parking place and seeing that people come in.
You know, I don't know if you've noticed this, but I guess one thing I've noticed, it seems like there are a lot more younger people that are coming to the market.
Mm-hmm.
It may be because of the time of the day. I used to go at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and that
Nobody was
people
awake.
were rolling out of bed. But you know, I've come later, I guess, over the last year or two, and it seems like I guess they're university students, but just a lot of younger people that are showing up.
Right.
That's probably a pretty good sign. You seeing that?
Yeah, we are, and we're seeing more students, and that was one of the reasons that Connie Migliazzo moved the market for 1 or 2 days over to the university. Was a lot of the students, I mean, they could take the bus, but they weren't even aware it was going on because it's mainly a summer thing. So they're like,
yeah, that's true.
It's just really starting up when they're taking exams and leaving, and if they're gone for the summer and they come back in the fall, they don't think about it. But they really wanted that. And so that she tried to do something right on site, and there were so many people there that had no idea that it was going on that then went to the market after they had that one at UVA. And that was one of the things we were looking at. It's like, well, you know, maybe UVA could host that, or, you know, they've got lots of area and space and something. But it does seem to be a real important social thing downtown. There are a number of people that walk there.
And I think that's what's better about this site than when it was at Jefferson.
Yeah.
It's even more that way.
Yeah.
And it's been, you know, people will stay downtown later,
Right.
to go to lunch
Yeah.
or late breakfast or go shopping, and you know, so it's kind of got a synergy to it that I think is pretty positive.
Yeah, we see a big impact of the local restaurants.
Whereas
right
when you
around
do
there.
it at Meade Park, I don't.
No, that's not.
It's not the same.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So is there anything that you'd like to say that I haven't asked you, or something that's important to you about what we might
I'll ask
be
you
able to
one
sh-
back to that I'm kind of curious about. Do you see more people that are, I guess I'll say stocking up, but getting a week's worth of local produce? And I mean, you can buy about anything in the summer now. Do you
Yeah.
see the amount that people are buying is increasing over time? More people
Yeah.
are conscious of sustainable agriculture and natural products, and
I think the biggest thing that we see is people want to interact with the source. And they want to talk about the food. They want to have
so you get a
some-
lot of questions from people.
A lot of
and-
questions. How do I cook this? Or last week I got this. You know, what did we do with this? But I think there's also, with all of the food safety issues recently, they're really feeling more comfortable face to face with the producer than buying something packaged.
like a jar of peanut butter that you
Right,
don't know
that
what's in
right,
it.
you have no idea where it came from, or even powdered milk that might have melamine from China. You know, so there's a level of people that are coming out, you know, with a green intention. They're gonna, doesn't matter how hard it is, they're gonna change their light bulbs. They're gonna buy a hybrid car, and they're gonna buy local produce. Or there's somebody who has health issues that wants to get something very fresh and clean, but across all of that, there is an interaction with the vendor, with the grower, with the producer, that seems to be a real value to them. I mean, you go into the nicest grocery store and have beautiful displays, but you don't get to ask somebody about what's going on. Why did you pick this variety, or what's special about that, or what? So I have a number of people that come and just, you know, what's new and unusual, what's special, and
Yeah, that's
what's
interesting.
that?
There's also the, you know, last year, the year before, that somebody had the best blackberries, so you start looking for them,
Right.
or whatever it is that your
Yeah.
favorite thing.
So you get
And-
an emotional attachment
yeah,
to what
and
you're doing.
It's not like walking in the grocery store and seeing a rack of them that have come from who knows where.
Right.
Yeah.
It might be different every week. So, and that has been an important part of what we're trying to do with Meet the Farmer TV is bring the social part, the interaction among the ripple effect of, you know, if you buy something from a vendor there at the market, they're spending that money locally, but also the sense of community, that it's not this big box store that I don't really know or care about. It's another individual in the community, and it kind of gets us back to the Jeffersonian times where everybody kind of had to work together, and we're wondering if this economic crunch doesn't create more of that, where people are.
Yeah, it'll be
trying
interesting to
help
see
each
what
other.
happens with the market over the next year or two. If it expands even more because people's concerns about the economy, or people start growing things themselves, or I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see.
Well, certainly early on they'll be coming to get plants if they're gonna try to grow them at home. And most of the farmers are like, you know, please try at home. And when you find out how hard it is,
Yeah. It's one thing to be a couple steps removed, but to be put it in the ground.
We had a guy that absolutely loves our tomatoes, and he comes every week and buys this, you know, huge bag, you know, a week's worth of tomatoes, and he planted his own, and he came out one week and he said, "You know where I live, and you're spraying something on my tomatoes. They're all dying. You're doing something because I can't grow them." So it's an interesting it's an interesting value adjustment for the people when they become involved in trying to do it. So even if people do start growing their own, they'll probably have a greater appreciation for what's in the market instead of less. We see people have the least appreciation for food when they buy it all at the grocery store and it's all blister packed onto styrofoam trays, and they don't, you know, they're buying beautiful red meat and there's something sprayed on it to make it that color, and they don't know. And so the marketing of pleasant packaging and pictures really kind of falls away when people get more intimately involved, and they start.
That's probably true.
So I think the market does. There is a lot of that interaction that happens at a producer-only market, and I think people, whether they even really realize it or not, they're getting some other emotional sustenance other than just their food, and that carries on when they take it home because there's a story for what it is, where it came from, or who they met while they were there.
Yeah, that's a great story. And that's one of the things that sets the market apart.
Yeah.
And it's a nice thing about having you and the others that have been there many, many years.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just week to week, but year to year. And the same thing with people at the market. I know if I go at a certain time of the day, I can almost tell you who's going to be there.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, there you have it. We've talked to the city manager, Gary O'Connell. So I hope you know now more about the local situation in Charlottesville, Virginia, and how community food systems can help nurture all of us and help our economic situation. At Meet the Farmer TV, we see producers, farmers, and small family businesses as the solution to our current economic and environmental woes. We want to bring to light the stories of individuals like yourself who work tirelessly with a personal passion for excellence and innovation. These are the stories of individuals creating sustainability within their own community. Through our TV shows, our website, and with your support, we endeavor to build a network of collaborators, to share information, and to educate. By getting mud on our boots visiting farms, by giving a voice to the many kitchen table entrepreneurs and their innovations, by standing in the heat of the kitchen with the chefs, and by exploring the challenges facing all small food-based businesses, we intend to reveal a view of community food systems that will nourish all of us and our planet. Entire systems we thought were rock solid are being bailed out. Large companies are laying off or closing. Investments have mysteriously vanished. So today, many of us want something different and feel something needs to change. Whether you're a farmer toiling in the field, a chef insisting on quality local produce, a baker cooking for market in your home kitchen, or you're a consumer making informed choices and supporting your neighbors, you are all the true heroes who will make change happen. So we invite you to share your story or just watch our show and be entertained, informed, and inspired.
A couple of weeks ago when I first was doing this market, I met a man down here who, his name's Brent Taylor, owns Classic Twig, and I bought from him these little cutting boards, and we put together a package that's all Virginia, a Virginia handmade cutting board, a Virginia handmade spreader, and then of course the Three Sisters Virginia made mustard.
For additional information and extended versions of this program, visit our website, www.meetthefarmer.com. Meet the Farmer TV was made possible by the generous support of Planet Earth Diversified, Makia Video Productions, and Melly Productions, with additional support from Flavor Magazine, serving the Piedmont's local food and wine culture.